Welcome to Truth in Politics, presented by Our Neutral Voices. This is the show where we're going to talk about politics, give you the ins and outs, and give you a full understanding of the politics and the political process. Now I'm going to start out with this quote, and it's befitting for what we're going to be talking about and how we're going to run this show. Great political questions stir the deepest nature of one half of the nation, but pass far and above the heads of the other half. Think about that. That's Wendell Phillips. So what that's saying is, we, at least half of this nation, really don't understand the politics of the political process. And that's sad because we're all out there voting, but we don't understand what we're voting for. We have two very blessed panelists with us today, very well-rounded and very well-traveled panelists. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to go into our conversation.
My name is Sean Johnson. I am the district president of the Young Dems, and I'm also the president of the Allen County Young Dems, a former candidate for city council at large, and I'm blessed to be here.
Yeah, we're not going to run past that too fast. Former candidate, you were just running to be on the ballot during the primary, correct?
Correct.
And unfortunately, you didn't make that ballot. But don't tell me this is your last foray into.
Oh, of course not. There's 3,000 people who voted for me that believe in me, and I would do. It would be a real disservice for me to not continue my work.
That's good. That's good. And our young lady, Miss Bree, introduce yourself to the people.
Yes, my name is Bree Andrews. I am the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for the Allen County Young Democrats, and I'm really excited to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you here. But before we go any further, you both used the term Allen County Young Democrats. Give us explain to us that don't know what the Young Democrats, who they are and what they do.
So we are a group of young people who are empowered to improve the political process and change the way that people think about politics. We also are building a bench for young people who are going to come and run for office or sit on boards and really be the next wave of politicians.
Yeah, we need that. We need that. That's good. That's good. Now, Mr. Sean, we're going to start off with you. You are a politician. You have ran. Tell us how you got into politics. Give us your start and your jump into politics.
Well, it started for me during the protests of 2020. Mm-hmm. And I was very, very passionate about the murder of George Floyd. And I just honestly didn't want, my efforts to go zero, in a sense. We stood out there for weeks. And, I just, we screamed, we yelled, we held signs, we held vigils and things like that. But I wanted to take the next step. Okay. I didn't want to just be, I just didn't want to beat a dead horse, if you will. And
I understand completely.
I got to a point where it's like, you know what, I need to figure out this process. And I was plucked out of the crowd by Sheila Curry Campbell, and she instilled a lot of knowledge in me and empowered me to move forward. And so I did.
Well, that's good. Well, we have a lot to look forward to in the political arena in Fort Wayne if you continue to run. And you're going to win. You're going to win sooner or later. Yes. We just look for the changes in the work that you do. Ms. Bree, tell us, how did you get involved with the Young Dems? And tell us about your position with them.
Yes, so I was actually speaking at a school board meeting. The initiative is to end racism within the school system. And Sean happened to be at that school board meeting as well. And he heard me speak, and he must have seen something in me to be able to call me and appoint me to director of diversity and inclusion. So with diversity and inclusion, I'll be implementing curriculums and patented programs that we're going to put together really to address diversity issues in the corporate world, making sure that there's spaces for young people and young voices that are of minority, that are Black, to be able to step into roles of leadership, be able to step into boards, and really just change that narrative that it's always going to be the white man.
We need that. Hey, fighting from the ground up. That's good. That's good. But as this quote led into, and I'm going to talk to you both, it's saying that half of us don't understand the political process. And I say that because election, we just had the primary.
Correct.
You heard a lot of people going out to vote, but what are you voting for? I don't know. They just said go vote. Mm-hmm. So give us the level of elections, the primary, general. Give us what's the difference between the two elections?
So your primary election is the pre-election to the November. Mm-hmm. You have to get through the primary in order to get on the ballot for November. So let's say, for instance, there's one seat available for city council at large, and you and I both want that seat, mm-hmm. and we're both, Democrats, or we're both Republicans, or we're both Libertarians, whatever party it may be. We both want to represent the party.
You're right.
In order for one of us to represent the party, we have to go through this process of selection, mm-hmm. which is what that primary is. And you're focused specifically on your party. So you're focused on, for instance, I was in the primary election, focused on the Democratic voters. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't make it through that process. I was able to get about 16% of the vote, but it wasn't enough to get over the hump to be the nominee for the Democratic Party going into the general election.
Okay. And give us a brief synopsis. I know it's ways off, but we're going to start seeing political campaigns. We're going to start seeing ads because whoever won the primary, it's now their time to kick in the gear and start gearing up to the November election. So what's the general election?
So the general election that's you're close to the finish line. Mm-hmm. Whoever wins the general election, that is who is going to represent the people as a whole. So, for instance, Michelle Chambers, Stephanie Crandall, and Audrey Davis made it out of the primary. Mm-hmm. 3 great women. Mm-hmm. And out of those 3 women, obviously one is an incumbent, Michelle Chambers, and she wins that election. She will represent us again for another 4 years.
Okay.
And so this process, the primary process is how you get selected to go to the general, and then the general is how you get selected to represent the people.
Okay. That's good information. But I'm wondering, how do you get involved? Say like I decide tomorrow I want to wake up and I want to run for a political office. Is there any qualifications? Is there any standards? How could a person get involved in being able to run for a political office?
So it really depends on who you are as a person. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Some people are meant to be in the forefront, having their face out there for people, and some people are meant to be behind the scenes. And that's tough to try to figure that out. But it comes down to you as an individual person. Now, there's many ways to get involved. You could volunteer in someone's campaign. You could be a door knocker for them. You could make phone calls for them. You could send text messages for them. You could run their social media. Those are the easiest ways to get involved. Mm-hmm. And once you understand those things, then you may be given an opportunity to do more.
Okay.
And so that's just the basics. And that's where I started. I knocked doors. I made phone calls. I sent text messages, and it just opened up a lot of doors for myself.
Yeah, and that's good. Ms. Bree, being a young voter, what do you see that's needed? First of all, in our community, and then maybe in our country, as a young voter, what would you be looking for in a candidate or somebody that maybe to represent us or you yourself?
So I'm really looking for someone who's going to be an advocate for young voices, for Black voices, for minority voices, someone who's going to stand in the gap and make sure the things that we've been complaining about the most, the things that the needs we're wanting to be met are going to be the things that are most important to them. So something that's important to me is affordable housing and making sure that we're creating spaces for minority families, single parent households, single moms to be able to have affordable housing, to be able to care for their families and be in areas where they're able to bring up their families safely, which is why I was such a proud voter and advocate for Sean, because that's something that's really important to him. And so I say, when you're voting, make sure that whoever you're voting for aligns with what you believe in, aligns with what you're wanting to see, the changes that you're wanting to see happen. But it's really important to me that we have someone in office that steps in that is young like us that that's going through the same situations that we're going through presently, because they can speak on your behalf. So everything that we're worried about, everything that we complain about, they're going through presently right now. It's not something that they have to look back on. They're dealing with it right now, and they can speak on our behalf.
Yeah. And that brings up a question, as you were mentioning. Are we represented properly or equally in Fort Wayne or in Indiana? Either one of you can answer that question.
No. It's a big NO. We have some representation. You know, we have Councilwoman Sharon Tucker. We have Councilwoman Michelle Chambers. We have Councilman Glenn Hines. We have some others who, for instance, Councilman Jeff Paddock, who, you know, a lot of the things that he's been working on for years is gearing towards, you know, people who look like you and I. But at the same time, once you get, you know, past that, it gets shaky, you know, because we have representation of people who haven't been through situations that we have been through, right? We have people who have not had to struggle the same way we had to struggle, or have a privilege that we do not have, that we cannot share.
Right.
And so, you know, I do feel that we are under represented, and, you know, we need to do what's necessary. So one, keep the representation that we have, and continue to build on what we don't have, and be willing to, you know, take a few punches, because that's what it's going to take in the city that we live in the state that we live in, furthermore.
But to add to that, for the representation that we do have, we need to make sure that we're coming alongside the people that are representing us and fully supporting them. That's not just going to events, that's really actually showing up and voting for them to keep them in the positions that they're in, so that they can advocate for us, so that they can, you know, speak on our behalf.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you, Neutral Voices and Our Neutral Voices, we were in a political foray for the fight against the jail. We spearheaded that in a lot of ways. We took that on because they didn't take our thoughts and considerations. And as we said in council meetings and things, there was never any town hall meetings. There was never any community meetings. There were never anything that they took for our consideration. And we fought that. And that shows power in numbers. We can do things. And being that power in numbers, our community, again, we don't understand. But our community, a lot of us don't think our votes count. A lot of us don't think we could go through the voting process. A lot of us just vote to vote. Now, do our votes count, and should we vote?
Yes, our votes count, and they count so much that they try so hard to block it. If your vote did not matter, they would not try to block it. It's just that simple. We have the power to sway any election. But the thing is the people on the other side are just as educated. They understand and know who's going to vote. We make up, as Black Americans, we make up 15% of this population, but only 2 to 3% of us vote. Imagine if 13% of that 15% went out and voted. We would be more respected.
Right.
We would have more resources, and maybe we would gain a little bit. And I say it like that because it shows the importance of how we are valued as a people.
Why don't we vote?
Because we've been taught that our votes don't count. I mean, I grew up in a household where I have family members telling me that your vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They just throw your votes out anyway. It's not that they had any proof of that. It's what they were taught. So it's our community not voting is a learned behavior. That's exactly what it is. And it's a behavior that needs to be broken. And we need to get more engaged. And we need to get more engaged in the diversity and inclusion side of it. Because once we understand our value, then we can get the growth we seek.
Yeah. And diversity and inclusion, how does that play a part in getting us to the polls or getting us more understanding of the election process and being political?
I really think we just need to speak to minority people, really speak to diversity, people of diversity. That way we're bringing those people in specifically with the education piece, because it's all about learning new knowledge. So we're relearning old behaviors and making sure that we're removing those out of how we act now. And then also just the education piece, educating ourselves on the whys behind this person, educating ourselves on the people who are on the ballot right now, because a lot of people don't even know who they are. And I think the reason why Sean did so well was his influence in the community. He was showing up to things. He was present. We were all surrounding him. If you didn't know him, I don't know how you didn't.
Right.
Because he was at everything. And so it's going to be both roles. It's going to be our job to help with the education piece, but it's also going to be the community's job to show up and come to these events when we're trying to introduce people, when we're introducing the next city council, someone who's running for city council or running for anything, and giving them a platform, because a lot of times they always have platforms where they're able to give speeches, introduce themselves, introduce their beliefs and what they are trying, the changes that they're trying to make happen. And we're not showing up to even be able to learn who they are. And so how can you know who to vote for if you, number one, don't know what your beliefs are, but then number two, don't even know what they believe in? What are you voting for? So education is everything, and showing up.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's why we're here, to educate, to get people more acclimated to the voting and political process. But not only our community, but our young community. You two are in a stage of life where you reach both generations, but there's generations up under you and people that they're getting farther and farther away from the political side of things. They don't believe in voting. They don't think anything. How do we, if we're going to unite, if we're going to bring that, how do we keep this growing, or what do we need to do to keep getting young people and people to the polls?
We have to change the way people think about politics. For many years, I worked at Chipotle, and the vision was to change the way people thought about fast food. They did that by continuing to do the same things. So it's not going to be an overnight thing.
Right.
A lot of people have asked me, am I going to run again? What am I going to do? Yes, I'm going to run again. Yes, I'm going to stay in the community, because I need people to understand that I'm serious about this. I'm serious about the community. I'm serious about people who look like me. I'm serious about the person that never got an opportunity and never got a chance. But it takes time, and it takes continuing to do the same things. We can't keep doing the same thing hoping for a different result.
Right.
That is the definition of
insanity. That is so true. That's so true. But we have, and we've talked about this on our in-depth show, and one of the questions was, or one of the statements were made, and it's true. Why do the other side only come to our community or try to find out what's in our community when it's election time?
Well, it's simple. Because we have something that they want. Annually, people of color invest more and spend more in things that they create. So if they're creating something that we're spending our dollars into and we're putting our efforts into, they're saying, you know what? Let me go there and see if I can get them to do more of that. It creates more equity for them, more money for them, and it gives them more power. We are giving our power away. We're giving it away by doing the same thing, hoping for a different result. We're not changing the way we go into politics. We're not changing our education level. We're not changing who we are as a people. We're not growing. And because of that, we're stagnant.
Yeah. And you mentioned something a little bit earlier, Ms. Bree, coming alongside of our politicians that are in office already. Now, a lot of us, in the community, I don't mean just in communities, I mean in our worldwide community, when people get in politics that look like us, we say that they've been sold out, or they sell out, or they don't support. But then there's some, let's be true.
Right.
There's some that abandon us as soon as they get our votes. How do we hold those people accountable?
I would say being invested into the actual, so like he said, with joining people's campaigns and being present at different events that they're speaking at, I would say stay as close to the situation that you care about as possible. I mean, if it was anybody else that you were invested in and that you wanted to know, you were investing your time and money into them, you would want to know what it is that they're doing. So you would stay close to the situation. Why wouldn't you stay close to the situation of the people that you're voting for? To be able to continue having conversations with them, continue approaching them, continue showing up to their events and hearing what they have to say, and ask questions that you have. There's plenty of times where they're on platforms and they're speaking and they're like, does anyone have any questions? And no one raises their hand because maybe they don't know what to say. So I always say, practice what your questions are going to be. Think about what your questions are going to be before you even show up, and then be prepared to put them to the test. And that's how you hold them accountable.
Well, how we try to hold them accountable, during the whole jail thing, I might have, spurned a few people, but every time we talked about the jail, I invited Nelson Peters to come join us. We even sent emails to him and the then Sheriff Gladio, come, give us an explanation. They wouldn't. We did have, we even asked the mayor to come because he was silent on the whole jail issue. And he pawned it off to, well, it's a county issue, but it's in the city, so that's neither here nor there. But we asked, and we had politicians, and we had one that said he's running for mayor, and he said if he wins, he can come back. We're just going to hold him to that because we do believe in, like you say, holding people accountable. We're not just going to continue to let you tell us something and we don't check you on that. So that's one of our forms, and that's why we have this forum too, because we have the platform. We have the ability now to hold people accountable. So with that being said, in the next 4, 10, 12 years, where do we see Fort Wayne in voting, the political process, the changes? But when are we going to get something here that's a substantial change and not just a lip service change on the southeast side of town?
Well, I know for a fact that Councilwoman Sharon Tucker is working on something big. She's always been a person of education. And the one thing she will always say is, and I will echo this to everyone, do the research. You have to know what room you're walking into and the language that they speak. So, for instance, we're talking about, you brought up, the mayor and him saying it's a county issue. He's correct. City council has no jurisdiction on that jail. They do not. That is not their entity. That is a county council issue. And so we have to spend time speaking to our county council, who does not look like us. They are all older white males, Republican older white males, and they don't see things the way we see them because they haven't been in our shoes. And so, as it may seem like he's just brushing it to the side, he's right. Because he can, brush some shoulders and make a phone call, but he does not make the final say so on what happens with that jail. It's called the Allen County Jail. It's not called the Fort Wayne Jail. It's in city limits, but it's truly a county jail. And so we have to do our research and make sure we understand what's actually going on and who does what. And all this stuff is public knowledge. Mm-hmm. It's right there. We just need to do a better job of understanding where to go and how to get there. Once we do that, we'll be able to grow a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's good knowledge. And that's what we're here for. But Ms. Bree, where do you see young people voting in the next 10, 12 years?
I hope they're all present and voting like they should be. But I think it's going to take a lot of work on our behalf, which is part of the reason why we're here. The Allen County Young Dems, it's part of the reason why we're here is to get that word out, get that knowledge out, get that education out, and get everyone present. And I think something that we did really well with his campaign was hosting a lot of events. And in those events, we had different political speakers speak to the election, as well as he spoke to the election as well. And I think if we do more of those things where we're coming and we're meeting young people where they're at, doing the things that they want to do, celebrating things the way they want to celebrate, that way we can actually connect with them on a more personal level. We can't just have big embassy events and expect all these young people to show up. That's not their scene. So we meet them where they're at, and we host small intimate parties, small intimate events, have a DJ, and whatever time we have to be able to get on our platform to educate, that's when we do that. And then I hope that really starts changing the hearts and minds of our young people to feel like their voice does matter so that they can show up and be present at the polls.
Now, the term you put young Dems, what age range, what demographics are young Dems?
So young Dems are between the ages of 14 and 36. And the demographic doesn't matter. I've made it very clear, with this organization that we are not turning a blind eye to anyone. In fact, our parliamentarian is transgender, and that's a different element that I grew up having no experience with, no knowledge with. So in order for me to gain that knowledge, I need to be in the room with this, specific group of people, because it makes no sense for me, or anyone for that matter, to pass judgment on something that you don't know. And a lot of times with a lot of these policies that are going on, we have folks passing judgment on people who they don't know. And a lack of knowledge is scary. Mm-hmm. And when you have that lack of knowledge, you're going to be reactive instead of being proactive. And we see that a lot in our policy. We see it on a day in and day out basis. We are truly going backwards. And we have to do something about it. And it's up to us as young people to take that step and be steadfast.
How do you get a 14, 15-year-old mind in a place to understand politics, Miss Bree?
That's a tough one. That's really a tough one.
Is it really?
You bring it down to them.
I think you have to break it down to them in the most plain way that they can understand. But 14 is pretty young.
It's young.
Yeah.
And sorry to piggyback off that. What you do is you find a situation that matters to them. You find a bill or a policy that directly affects them.
Something to connect.
So, for instance, affordable housing. Our population between the ages of 18 and 25 are struggling. And so we bring that down to the 14, 15, 16-year-olds and say, hey, by the time you're 18, this is what it's looking like for you.
Right.
We show them the data. We show them the numbers. Okay? People understand. You bring it to somebody in a dollar value, they'll understand.
Right.
And when you show them those numbers and data, you're basically showing them their future. Yep. So if you have the capability of being able to change your future for the better, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, this has been a good show. Our time is getting away from us. Tell us anything that the Young Dems have coming up, and give us something that would encourage people to get out and come to see you, understand the political process, join the Young Dems or whatever their political foray is. Give them something or a good reason why they should. And tell us something that the Young Dems might have coming up.
I'll speak on the next event that we have coming up. We're actually partnering with Southwest Allen County Schools FACS group, which is Freedom Against Transgressions Within the School System, basically ending racism within the school system. We're partnering with them on May 27th for a community block party. And with that block party, we'll be bringing awareness to all of the different racial prejudice issues that have been going on within the school system with Southwest Allen County Schools specifically, but really Fort Wayne community-wide. And we'll be giving the platform to students to be able to discuss specific situations and stories that they've dealt with within the school system where they've been racially prejudiced against.
And we also have, we have a nice convention coming up.
Yes.
The Young Democrats of America. We're having a Young Dems convention in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, okay.
And so we have all the Young Dems from around America are coming together to have a convention to really talk about different things that are going on, things that are affecting young people. We also have the statewide convention that's coming up in Indianapolis. And those events are things where all young people are welcome.
Yeah.
Because for young people, like, we still want to have fun too.
Right.
We don't want to just be, sitting in a room. I was never good in sitting in a lecture hall.
Right.
That was never my thing. I want to be engaging. Again, I'm an extrovert, so I need to be around people. I need to be around situations, places, and things. And we also have monthly meetings. We also have our executive team meeting, and anybody could get involved. And there is an application and a membership fee of only $10 for the entire year. There's no monthly fee. There's nothing like that. We don't believe in robbing the young community, and I say it like that because
It has happened.
it happens, and so that's not what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And it helps out. It helps young people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I will say on our team, we have someone that represents everything. So like you said, we had a transgender participant, and we have someone who represents pretty much every race on the team. And we're always looking to recruit more people that have voices, that want to be heard and just want to join the cause.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you again for joining us. And this is going to be every third Thursday of the month. It is the second Thursday this month, but we had something already programmed for next Thursday. So we will be back on the third Thursday in June. We invite you all to come join us and listen to us and join our panel. If you have any questions or anything, you can always email us. All the Young Dem information will be on our website. But we want to encourage you to follow us so you can get a better understanding of politics, because your vote does matter, as they say. And I do agree with you when you say this. If it didn't matter, why do they try to rob you of it? But make your own decision. Be informed on your own, and that's what we're here for. But we want to thank you all again. And as we always say, before we close out our show, always protect your mind.